Sifikile. So obviously you gave a very good summary of where we find ourselves from an economic perspective. The economy was not performing at the right level to start off with. Then during the lockdown, there was a further downgrade of the South African economy. The latest predictions from the Reserve Bank is that the economy is going to contract by about 6.1% for 2020 from a GDP perspective. So you can see already that is a massive challenge for the economy. From a business perspective, this is a huge challenge. We had to deal with the disaster from day one when the pandemic, started reaching our shores, and the government decided on the lockdown. So from a crisis management perspective, most businesses were able to immediately activate their contingency plans and crisis management plans. Most businesses were able to deal with that, including preserving their cash and also making sure that their people are actually protected. And also making sure that they get in touch with various stakeholders, including suppliers, your creditors, etc. In some instances, they had to renegotiate certain terms from a contractual perspective. But what this means then going forward is that business should start planning now for business resumption post the lockdown period. Again, let's not forget that there could be a further extension of the lockdown. That is still a possibility. So while planning for business resumption, it's very important to also consider a worst case scenario where the lockdown is actually extended further. So once the lockdown has extended, in fact, you need to plan even before the lockdown has come to an end. Make sure that your plans are robust enough to actually resume business. Look at the various elements of business. What does it mean from a people perspective, from your operations perspective, from a finances perspective? Will you have enough funding to actually resume with normal business? Or do we actually, as business people, need to consider funding available either from government or even private sector, our bankers? We need to start having those conversations right now before the lockdown is actually lifted. When the lockdown is lifted, obviously it won't be business as usual. Things have changed, things have shifted. An example is most businesses are now comfortable with the idea of remote working. Should we actually go back to the normal way of working, 8 to 5 at the office, or should we actually reconsider that stance and allow our workforce to work remotely? And what will that mean from a premises rental perspective, from our operations, from an infrastructure perspective? So we need to look at that and plan accordingly. We then need to almost reimagine the future, plan for the future. What does it look like from a strategic perspective, and what strategies should we be implementing to take care of the potential future going forward? And part of that is also building into our strategies the resilience that our businesses require, so that in the future, where a similar crisis emerges, at least our businesses are catered or have catered for that kind of a situation. There should be understanding where the business is at, the client business is at this particular point in time. Some of our clients are actually in a better off scenario. If you look at certain industries, you look at telecoms, media and entertainment, certain types of entertainments, those industries may actually be cashing in during this period. Let's look at Google as an example, for instance. Are they really in a crisis mode, or maybe they're actually benefiting out of this crisis indirectly? And the answer could be they are benefiting indirectly through increase spend on marketing online, increased usage of some of their products, including YouTube, for instance, in advertising on YouTube. So it's important for us to understand the nature of the business that the client is in, and whether or not they're actually benefiting or are adversely affected by the lockdown period. Once we understand that, we need to have a conversation with our clients and looking at various aspects in terms of, for instance, from a cash flow perspective, how are they doing cash management? From a customer perspective, how are they doing? From a people perspective, how are they doing? From an operations perspective, how are they doing? And going beyond that and looking at things that are very specific and probably could be paid points for our clients, including things like your cybersecurity challenges that they may be facing. They could be facing connectivity issues to ensure that they continue with their normal operations and they can enable their workforce to work remotely. So it's a broader conversation that we should be having with our clients at all levels, oversight level, board, audit committees, bring it to the executive level and have a similar conversation and operations level. So we need to actually get closer to our clients and have that open discussion with our clients with a view of assisting them better manage where they are right now and how they can then resume with normal operations going forward. So a good starting point would be an understanding of the client's environment and the nature of business that they run. So identifying things like critical infrastructure, critical data, critical processing environments, and also understanding the ecosystem. How does the client connect with their own suppliers, their own those critical assets, critical data, critical systems. On top of that, then build controls, robustness within your environment. You then also have to make sure that you have detective controls. So are you able to tell when somebody has breached your network and they're already in the network and doing certain activities that otherwise under normal circumstances, you wouldn't allow them to do. So you need to have those detective mechanisms. On top of that, you then have to respond in the event that you see something funny within your network, within your systems. You need to be able to respond to that and make sure that you then correct that situation or recover from a situation like that. Some of the situation may result to a complete shutdown or disaster. You then need to have your business continuity and business resumption plans and make sure that everybody who's part of that plan actually understand their role in making sure that the business continues going forward. Key to this, Sifikile, is people. So your own employees and employees of your suppliers and employees of your customers in the event that you give them access to your systems. And even third parties, where you connect with third-party service providers. So the people element is very, very key. You need to focus on creating the right level of awareness so that people understand the risk, the nature of risk, the level of risk, and what is allowed and what is not allowed within your network. That is usually described or articulated within your own policies, procedures, and guidelines. So make sure that you have enough of those and everybody has been socialized around what is allowed and what is not allowed. Obviously, it becomes very, very key to then monitor continuously and remind people to ensure that there's continuous compliance to those guidelines and rules.